Welcome back to the collision repair and refinish stage here at 2025 SEMA. And Jerry Benani is joining us again. We're going to go through the collision repair overview workshop. And Jerry, let's kick it off.
Thanks for having me, Scott. So going through the workshop, I'm going to get through a little bit here. Basically, the purpose of this is to help you as insurance adjusters, industry people, estimators, as well as technicians, understand some of the basic awareness of Ford vehicles, our workshop manuals, information and repair strategies, in particular things like BEV, ADAS, and also other relevant information. Remember that this does not replace the factory workshop manual. This is kind of in addition to, and shows you how to hunt for information within Ford. So really you go through this, and I'm not going to read the agenda, but we're going to go through some overview of the information, where that information can be found, body construction materials, and then I'm going to go through some in-depth stuff on the F-150, Super Duty, Expedition Navigator, followed by the Ranger and the Bronco. We're also going to talk about the Explorer rear side rail sectioning option and talk a little bit about fixed glass replacement. So let's get started. You ready?
I was born ready.
Got it. Quality means doing it right when no one else is looking. Henry Ford. And that's kind of the hallmark of what we do at Ford. We look at this as an avenue to try to help the shops do their day-to-day job and do it with integrity and above all safety. So let's go to technical resources. This is a little bit of a survey over time of the different things that are available to the technician to research repairs. But as you look at this, you can see where some of these numbers fall. OEM One Stop is one of the big ones. You've got others with CCC, et cetera, et cetera. Now, looking at the factory information over the Ford Lincoln Repair Procedure site, we cover some of these basic core things, such as basic collision procedures, working with mechanical repairs that are linked to those procedures. And that's the key thing to remember. With the Ford procedures, we have hyperlinking that is very, very in-depth and very helpful to you as you're repairing the vehicle. We're also going to talk about some free resources as well over FordCrashParts.com. So going into it, you can see here some of the benefits of using the Ford Info. Intuitive navigation, linking to other repair procedures that are related to the collision repair you're doing, and of course videos that are embedded within the repair procedures as well. We have a lot of great information that's free over the FordCrashParts.com website, including position statements which are newly released. You really want to check these out. My magazine is called On Target Newsletter, and we write this to the collision industry kind of as a quarterly summary of what's going on at Ford within our repair structure. We're also going to talk a little bit about some repairability training videos that are on FordCrashParts.com, including a bedside repair replacement, as well as transit body side replacement. So good stuff there. And of course, other Ford-approved sealers, paint systems, and other miscellaneous information. So going into it, we have a lot of great technical documents that are available. Steel descriptions, repair info on all these various different vehicles you see. And we're also going to cover the steel repairability matrix as well. Some other information that you can gather from this, I'm going to not read the position statements, but you can see them listed there. And of course, FordCrashBars.com or the iCar RTS website or OEM One Stop. Here's the On Target newsletter. This is kind of a sit down with Jerry and the collision team, and we talk a lot about the different things that are current in the industry, new procedures that have come, and we also focus on particular vehicles that are of interest to you as you're repairing our fleet of vehicles through the Ford family. Our Ford-approved paint systems are listed here, and basically as you look at those, they have met our aftermarket refinish specification for refinish. And you can see the brands, AXO, Axalta, BASF, PPG, Sherwin, and Velspar. Foams and sealers are documented within the repair procedures, and you can see the various ones that are approved, including Fuser, 3M, Motorcraft, and SEM. And within the service procedures, we document where to apply those sealers and you to restore those as per production level and intent. So let's get into body construction, the meat and potatoes of the day. You guys liking this? Is this good? So, in every factory workshop manual, we have a summary page that's specific to the vehicle. Documented within that are exploded diagrams of the structure, showing where the different materials are within that structure by that particular vehicle family, and of course, where they're located within the structure in the different models.
So I just want to call out the steel repairability matrix. That's one of the documents that I think is probably one of the most underutilized, and there's so much information that helps you make those repair and replace decisions that you really need to get familiar with that document because it's going to help you do so many things and answer so many questions.
I'm going to pull that up in just a minute, but that was done in conjunction with the American Iron and Steel Institute, Mittal Steel, brands like GM, Audi. We had a number of teams involved in that, and we worked very closely with the ICAR team to develop that document. I'm going to show you that in just a minute. So as the example of the steel repairability matrix, it covers the various families of steels, and in particular what you can do with them, preferred welding methods, preferred methods for if you're going to use heat during the repair, and there's general guidelines on the bottom. Remember that the factory workshop manual trumps any information that you see out within the field, even if offered by us. The workshop manual is the key and the gospel. So this is a question you get a lot, Scott. So partial replacement. The key to remember at Ford Motor Company is if it's a structural repair, we document that within the factory workshop manual procedures. We give cut lines where necessary or at factory joints. Basically, if you're not receiving any or you cannot find any type of a documented procedure or sectioning option, the part is to be replaced as you receive it as a service part at the factory joints in the factory manner. Now, exterior skin, we leave it to your judgment as the technician to perform that replacement and section according to your repair plan, your experience, your level of what is the least invasive repair judgment, and of course, you must stay within 50 millimeters away from any hinge points or structural points of strikers. You get that a lot, don't you?
We really do,
Yeah.
and a lot of times they see like the cut lines here, which are very common ones in the manual, and I think that's where you only can put it. But that's where that line is in the procedures, and it really does give you that flexibility. And a lot of times those cut lines are going to be for accessing hidden reinforcements and things like that. And so it's a good place to put it if that works for the damage you have, but you have other options, and that's all in that workshop manual.
Well said. Very well said. And remember, it's according to the technician's judgment as far as the least invasive repair. Many of the cut lines we have on exterior skin are guidelines or suggested cut lines. They are not mandatory. So just remember that. So let's go into a little bit and discussing that. We do recognize that cost-effective repairs are the least invasive repairs. We also try to do so in the effort to repair the vehicle properly, on time, and with the least invasive and the least parts possible. So going into it, let's talk aluminum. You ready to talk aluminum for a minute?
We always talk aluminum. I'm always ready.
Okay. So, a lot of times when we launched aluminum, it changed the industry. But as you see it, really it isn't very different than steel. Techniques are different. You're looking at riveting versus welding in many cases. Tools should be quarantined, a separate set of tools, a separate welder. We talk about the basic shop hygiene, wiping down equipment, curtain walls are perfectly fine, an air management system, and you can use a wet vacuum system or a dry vacuum system for dust and shavings. Again, the same welder technology, and just want to have that as a dedicated unit. PDR is really a simple way to do and has been done for decades on aluminum panels. So I'm going to move on a little bit. This is the real meat and potatoes here. So going into the F-150, we've got a lot of great options, and I'm going to cover this in a little bit of detail. We really, at Ford, believe we are truly best in class for the ability to section frames in the least invasive manner possible. When you look at that long, on the upper left, the long forward frame section, next to that to the right, the short frame stub sections, the bottom left, the rear main full section, and then including things like lower control arm brackets, 4x4 brackets. There is so much stuff available to repair this frame. This is a part listing and just a quick summary overview of the different brackets that are available and sections available to service a typical F-150 frame. You look at this, it's paramount in the industry. And this also applies towards the Expedition Navigator family, with the exception of its rear section being unique. But there's a lot of great stuff within this document you can see here. Please remember that as you're estimating one of these vehicles, and keep that in mind that there's a lot of ways you can repair the frame versus just replacing it.
And this is one that we see a lot of questions on because, you know, a wheel gets hit, it hits a curb, it goes in the ditch and hits a rock or a stump, and it just tears that out. And to replace that entire frame, again, it would be extremely intrusive, where we can, you know, grind that bracket off, replace it, weld the new one on, and it's a much less intrusive repair. It's a lot better for everybody involved, and it's great that you have all those options.
Yeah, it's really dynamic. I think the thing is when you look at the frame repair, we carry that through not only in the F-150 and Expedition Navigator, but into the Super Duty, and I'll show you that in just a minute. But then you look at Ranger, you look at Bronco, and we've got similar options on the smaller frames. So we've got a lot of great stuff. So let's talk apron tube. You know, a lot of other vehicles are very complex in the forward aprons, the forward portion of the vehicle, many stampings, there's many parts involved. We have developed a very, very simple, very easy to repair front end here. The apron tube concept, the part you see in blue, simply rivets to the side of the cowl at the hinge pillar. Now, on the steel vehicle that was before this, that apron tube went in and underneath the hinge pillar. It was actually the point that the door hinge is bolted to. The problem is that in order to gain access to the spot wells at that time, you had to drop the instrument panel down. So this repair, all the fasteners are external, the rivet bonded to the side of the cowl. Think of it as a tongue and groove type of setup. Hemlock rivets or pop rivets replace the original SPR rivets in this location. And at this point, we're looking at over an 8-hour savings in repair time. Not to mention, you don't get the rattles, squeaks, or the other issues of dropping the instrument panel down. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare and contrast for you. This is F-150 and Expedition Navigator. Notice the single tube. It is made of hydroformed aluminum. When you go to the Super Duty, note that the Super Duty, and I'll go through the frame really quick first. Super Duty has the similar options for frame repair that we do for F-150. Long front frame section kit, rear frame section kit. Look at the bracketry. We have so much stuff that's available to repair these trucks. And the idea behind it, again, is least invasive repair. But going back to the apron tubes for just a second on the body, the unibody structure, notice that this uses a twin tube design. Because of the larger engines, the intercooler packages, the cooling packs on the Super Duties, we go with a twin tube design, but it actually goes to HSLA steel. Now, this is kept isolated from the cowl and the other areas of the truck by a powder coating. So when you look at the service part, it's going to come to you in a black powder coat. Those are attached to the same way as with the Hemlock rivets and structural adhesive as you do the F-150. All fasteners are external. So again, same concept. You're looking at a single tube on F-150 Exped Nav with a dual tube on the Super Duty. And by the way, the engineer who designed this, we gave him a challenge and said, can you do this in a really simple manner? Guess what his name is? You talk about a cool, you thought Scott Van Huel was a cool name? This guy's name is Dragan Stojkovic. He is a very talented engineer, over 22 years at Ford Motor Company, a good friend of mine. But he designed this little apron tube that you see here. And that concept has gone through a great number of other Ford vehicles. So I always say, you know, you did a really great thing there, buddy. He really did. So moving on to common repairs between the F-Series, of course, between F-150 and Super Duty, and this also applies to XBED Nav, is cab cross members can be sectioned. You can section them according to the repair hit. Of course, we talked earlier, Scott, about sectioning the inner rocker, particularly the procedure for if a running board stud gets ripped out or damaged on the inner rocker. We also offer floor pan sectioning, and of course, the torque boxes are repairable as well. All of these options made the F-150 at the same insurance ratings as the outgoing steel truck in 2014 to 2015. That's why we were able to keep the truck still affordable and easy to repair. Now, going on to the side here, you notice this has the green, there's a green part on the bottom of the picture. That's the rocker panel extrusion. That is a complex extrusion, a reinforcement vane with an X design to it. There's some people in the industry who think that you can repair that. Do not listen to them. Listen to Ford Motor Company and the workshop manual and iCar. What happens is there's some false people out there that don't know what they're talking about that are saying that part can be sectioned. How you can section a complex extrusion is beyond me. But we also offer sectioning options. We do offer sectioning options for other areas. For instance, the A-pillar tube above the B-pillar can be sectioned. For instance, the part behind the B-pillar can be sectioned. That's a simple stamping. When you look at the options to repair this truck, we really offer a lot of dynamic ways to repair it in a simple, very, very least invasive manner. And these things also apply towards the Expedition Navigator family as well. So I'm going through a lot really quick. You guys good with this? Are you comfortable where we're at? Okay. So, rivets.
Your favorite.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
I'm ready. All right. Rivets have to be put in the factory locations, the correct rivets. You can see here the range of where the rivets go. These rivets are developed for strength, depending on the heat treatment of the aluminum, if there's adhesive in the joint. Each rivet is driven in a unique way based on location. Remember that a typical F-Series truck utilizes possibly up to 67 different styles of rivets. Those are all SPRs, but they're different specs of rivets around the structure. When you're repairing this vehicle, be sure that you follow the workshop manual procedures that dictate where those rivets go and what mandrel drives the rivet. When you look at an SPR rivet, and this is the science of it for a second, an SPR rivet splays out a lot like the teeth, the roots of your teeth within your gums. If you don't properly set that rivet correctly, you can either overset it and damage the material below it, or you can underset it, making a very weak joint. Either way, it's a weak and inferior joint. That's why we say utilize Ford Motor Company rivets only during these repairs. Do not, under any shape or form, deviate from that. Do not use aftermarket rivets, and do not do not use an incorrect mandrel to drive the rivets. If there's anything we get from this discussion today, please do that, because the safety of your customer comes into play here. We would never do a weak MIG plug weld or a weak spot weld or a weak MIG seam weld. This is as important as that. We also have a very strong rivet position statement, which has been updated since this, and it covers that very information. So, do you have any questions on it? Did I cover that all right?
Yeah, you covered it great, but I just wanted to point out this picture here is a great opportunity to make your map, color code it on here, and then take those same colors and map it out on the part you're putting on with the dots in the locations, because you can see there's 3, 6, and 2s, and then it's not the number of rivets, it's which one you're calling out. And so if you go in there and you map it out, when you're going in there, you're not switching back and forth between the mandrels, putting the wrong one in the wrong location. This is your roadmap. Take this roadmap and put it right on the vehicle, and that way you're going to be most efficient and you're going to do it correctly.
The key is once that glue starts kicking, you're moving fast during the repair, especially if you're doing a complete body side. So you want to make sure that you have your ducks in a row. You want to make sure that you've got the rivets set to go. And above all, I've heard guys even on YouTube saying, well, you could put any rivet wherever you want, which is really scary.
Yeah.
So,
especially when the rivet, the length of them is just slightly different, and a lot of times, unless you have a micrometer, you're not going to even notice it.
you won't even notice it. So, are we good with rivets? Can I calm down now?
Yes, you can. Your blood pressure can come down.
It's good. It's good. I'm good. All right. So Mach-E. Remember on vehicles like Mach-E, other BEV vehicles, we have emergency response guides over the FordCollisionParts.com, FordCrashParts.com. You can look at response guides, and that talks about key safety features about the vehicle, where key wiring components are, where other key components are within the structure. So follow the safe handling procedures, everything within the guidelines of the workshop manual, and things should go very, very well. This is a good vehicle. Structurally, it's very, very similar to other families, such as the Escape, the Bronco Sport, etc. An exciting new thing that we've added to the workshop manual is my good friend David Fabricatori put together a very, very strong line in the sand that talks about when you analyze a damaged battery, how to analyze it. What is considered superficial information or superficial damage? What is considered more serious damage? What is, I really have to replace the battery or replace its cover? So that is, nothing is left to chance within that procedure, and that is in the factory workshop manual information. Please reference the manuals to do that. Now, if we can move on from that, Mach-E hoisting, pretty straightforward. There's a lot of training available through iCar as well as Ford, and you could go to the iCar website for that. And then let's go to Bronco. How cool is this vehicle? I mean to tell you, I had a 69, love that truck. I also had a 79, and looking at this truck, what a throwback to the old one. This is an example I lifted directly from the factory workshop manual. Look at the overview of where the different materials are within the structure. This is a great overview that shows the structure in its overall design. But look at the exploded diagrams. All of this is in the factory Ford workshop manual information. I did not create this specifically for this presentation. This is what you have available to you when you repair our vehicle using our manuals. And again, notice something similar, Scott? Apron tubes. So when you look at the design of this, they chose to go with the same idea as the F-Series. You see the apron tube concepts.
And I love having these color graphics like this, because when you're looking at, okay, those repair and replace decisions, you instantly can visually see where it's at, what you can do, what you can't do, because you have that repairability matrix as well. And so when you start marrying those two up, and all the information's there for you to make 99% of the decisions you need to make. There could be a one-off thing that we have a question on, but a lot of that information is going to be answered. But you can't just look at one procedure. You might have to look at 3 different things to put it all together. And Ford really does do a great job of all those internal links, because you might have 15 of them open by the time you're done, but it takes you to all the places you need to go.
As a technician from my earliest years, I'm just boggled by the hyperlinking. The hyperlinking is just one of the strongest things we do now. And it's stuff I could only dream of when I was a kid coming up in the business. And looking at this, the exploded diagrams, you know, this was firsthand from experienced techs. They said, we know how to take it apart. We know how to separate the spot welds. We want to know where the material is within the structure. If you poll many body techs, that's the first thing they're going to say is, tell me where the steels, where the different materials are, and then I will go from there. And we do offer specific procedures, but these exploded diagrams keep things very simple. Now, if you look at this, can we talk frames?
We can.
So, frames. We offer similar type repair procedures and kits to repair the Bronco as well as the Ranger frames. These are very similar vehicles. They're built on the same line. And what happens is that these brackets, for instance, the front bumper bracket, for instance, the short bumper or short frame stub kits, the long front frame section, all of these work in conjunction. And you look at it, it's real similar to the F-Series, isn't it? We've offered repair sections for these vehicles that keep them very repairable in the least invasive manner. We also have a long rear frame section kit, even the rear cross member, as well as the Panhard bar and all the other suspension bracketry. Cool, cool stuff. Going into it, look at the trailer hitch. A few bolts, and you're off. Very, very easy to work with this vehicle. And again, I think it's a very robust vehicle. The frame is very heavy duty, very stiff. We've got multiple reinforcements and welded cross members that are through pierced, welded on the inside as well as the outside. Very, very tough unit. So, why don't you talk about, I'm going to let you talk for a while because my throat's getting sore. I'm going to drink some more. I'll listen to you talk for a bit. How about it?
Yeah, that sounds good.
For it.
This is my favorite part of the presentation.
And look at it. Here you are with look at the beard.
Yeah, that's when I was 12.
It's a lot shorter.
I was 12 years old. So we've done a lot of work over the years with Ford. The linking pins, the running board, we've got videos on that. We've got a lot of articles that really point to that because when we get questions in at RTS, it's not us coming up with it. We're going to the OEMs. You're bringing it to your engineers, and they're looking at things and approving different things. And so the linking pin is kind of one of the most important things I think that my team does is we not only get the answer for that shop, but then we publish out articles and bring awareness to it. It's influenced, some of the position statements and repair procedures that have been developed. And this really is a feeding mechanism to how do we, what are the questions out there? What is happening? And it's fantastic. And when we were talking about EVs, we looked at that, and we have a section on the website that is the hybrid and electric vehicle disable search. And all we go through there is basically, here's how you get to it in the OEM repair information. Because if you're going to disable that vehicle, you need everything in that document that's in the OEM information. And so we give you that step-by-step on how to get to it. And that the ERGs are terrific, but you still, as a repair facility, you still need to be accessing the repair information because the ERG is emergency and gives you a starting point, but you really need the OEM.
It's just a high-level guideline. It's a high-level guideline, and it's meant for when that vehicle's in a ditch and someone has to get out of it quickly. But I think we offer it just as a good overview because, I think there's a lot of good diagrams of where things are within that structure and where those components are located. Are you ready for the next one?
Yeah, one last thing I want to add is
sure.
Everything we're doing is really helping people find the information because, we work with you at Ford, we work with all the other OEMs, and we're trying to get all that information in one place. And we're not going to be your only stop, but we can be your first stop, and we'll get you to that information faster by showing you where to find it, bringing awareness, and helping you understand some of the things that maybe you don't understand today. We're going to help guide you to that information, either through training or, most of the time directing you to the OEM repair information.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, ready to go on? The rear side member for Explorer. So this came from popular demand. This came from shops and insurance companies that were looking at the rear of Explorers getting hit. And as you note here, we have 3 different cut options to replace the rear frame rail section of the Explorer. We have a great new video we did with a wonderful team from iCar. Anton did a tremendous job at our building working with a vehicle that we had as a sample unit. We have a great video going to be released very soon. And you can see here this is actually lifted directly from the workshop manual procedure. But we offer 212, 410, or 570 millimeters from the rear of the vehicle. Of course, you can choose that according to the severity of the damage. Now, going on to the next, the replacement section utilizes a 50 millimeter backer, and that is done within the guidelines of the repair. You can see here the MIG plug welds that are documented for the new replacement section. So just check the workshop manual for this one. Some really great stuff. Can I talk fixed glass?
Of course.
Wow. Okay, so going back in time, there's been numerous things that have happened. Very, very, very serious safety implications can occur with fixed glass. But I'm going to talk about my area of fixed glass because I'm not the fastest at doing windshields. I can do them, but man, it's the structure around it that I'm working on. And what we really have to direct you to do, and this is an important warning, kind of like the rivets discussion, shops, unfortunately, are bonding stationary structural glass to aftermarket refinish base coat, clear coat systems. This absolutely, positively must not be done. Do not do that. When you're refinishing a windshield flange and you're down to bare metal, you've welded in, let's say, a new roof skin, et cetera, be absolutely sure that you properly prepare that substrate and apply an epoxy or a self-etching primer to that windshield bed urethane area. Mask that off after it's dried, and you may apply your base coat, clear coat around the perimeter for when you put the windshield or stationary glass in the vehicle. The reason why we want you to go to epoxy or self-etching primer is because it is the most bulletproof platform you have. The problem with a base coat, clear coat in aftermarket refinish low bake products, it turns into an Oreo cookie. It does not allow you to bond that windshield correctly to the base parent metal. OE high bake is a totally different chemistry. It is just that. It is baked at extremely high temperatures, and anyone in the industry will attest when you get into a situation replacing a flange of any kind, be sure that you go to epoxy primer to ensure you're going to a safe substrate. I can't stress this enough. There's been a huge, very, very high-profile case in the past, and one of the mess-ups on that job was they didn't put the windshield in that car correctly. And that could have been prevented. You know, do it right.
You know, I think one of the things that I always kind of correlate with this is when we had raw plastic bumpers, and if you did not prepare it correctly, the paint would peel off, it would blow off going down the road. And that's kind of the same thing happening here, where you don't have that adhesion, and if, you know, the bumper's very obvious, where you're not going to see this typically until there's a problem, and all of a sudden the airbag timing could be interrupted on it. And when you watch that collision energy on one of the crash test videos and you see the windshield look like ripples on a pond, that is structural and that is transferring energy, and you don't know what's going to happen to that energy, to that vehicle once that happens. And if all it does is pop off because it's not properly adhered, because again, it's not prepared correctly. And none of the paint makers say, yeah, you can put our product on there. They all say that you absolutely cannot do that.
Well said, well said. Well, our glass position statement, I'm not going to go into this in detail. Please check it out on FordCrashParts.com. It does cover some of the nuances with our glass. And again, I am not a glass expert, but I will say there's a lot of great info within that position statement. And Scott, I'll let you talk about Repairer's Realm. I've been on a couple of these, huh?
Yeah, we've done one or two.
So, yeah, we've done a few, yeah. So I'll let you talk about them.
Yeah, so these are really, you know, technical discussions. We're going over, you know, obviously some of these different topics and just highlighting some of these things in the workshop manual, or things that have been, you know, changed over the years, things that we maybe not have seen. But, you know, the structural sectioning guidelines, exterior panel sectioning, we've gone into depth. Some of the stuff we talked about today, we go into really good depth. They're usually, half an hour to an hour long, depending on the topic. But these are something that go and watch them. There's great information in them. And we do one on the last Wednesday of every month is when they come out. And it's going to be a wide variety of topics. And it's really worth your time to watch some of these.
It's really enjoyable to be on them, too. I mean, the thing is, it's kind of, think of it as good people, technicians, industry people, sitting around after work talking about their headaches, their things that concern them, and the best ways of doing a repair. And I think that cross-forum cycle is pretty good, the cross-functional team of it. So I want to thank everyone for attending this. I hope this was well worth your while. We at Ford thank you for working with us. We hope that anything that we can do to help you in your future in working with the vehicles of our family, we're happy to help you on that. And Scott, thanks for everything you do for the industry, for me, and for Ford. Thank you again.
Yeah, Jerry, we work great together. We've done a lot of good things, and there's a lot more to come. Thank you for taking time out of SEMA to come and sit down with us today, and have a great rest of your day.